Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. Today, let me tell you what I'm up to. I'm loading two different boxes of Speer Gold Dot. Now, these boxes contain different bullets. This one, for instance, is the 230 grain Speer Gold Dot hollow point short barrel version. And this one is the standard Speer Gold Dot hollow point. You know, I've been shooting this for quite a while, and it is, of course, kind of one of those legendary, reliable bullets. But I've heard a lot about the short barrel. And I've always wondered, what is the real difference? Is it just a marketing thing or what? So I bought a box and also talked to the folks over there at Speer. And as it turns out, and it's very evident by looking at it, that the hollow point cavity on that short barrel version is quite a bit larger, more expansive. The idea being that the short barrel version will more reliably expand when fired from a short barreled pistol that then has the accompanying slower muzzle velocities. Kind of makes good sense, but I was wondering then, how is it going to perform compared to the standard Gold Dot when it's fired from the same pistol? Well, before we get into my ideas and my little experiment that I'm doing today, let me tell you how I'm loading this. So I'll be using, once again, unique powder. Again, this is an excellent powder as far as I'm concerned. I really like unique for my pistol and my shotgun loads as well. And I'll be throwing 5.6 grains of unique. I worked this load up quite a number of years, and it's kind of my go-to load for the ACP, 45 ACP, when I'm using 230 grain bullets. And when I'm seating these bullets, I'm using, of course, my bullet seating die. This is a Hornady bullet seating die. But one of the things that I've changed recently is I now use what I call a two-stage crimping process. This bullet seating die is set up to not crimp the bullet when I initially seat that bullet. You know, this bullet seating die can be set, and normally I have set it that way, that it seats and crimps in one step. I always found that to be kind of handy, quite handy. But after the little episode with the Federal Syntech bullets that we've ran a whole series on a previous extreme reloading season, I decided to kind of change things up for the 45 ACP and start using a two-stage process. That bullet seating die just seats the bullet. And now my redding die will apply the correct taper crimp. It's a little bit of a hassle, I suppose. Wouldn't be anything at all if you have a progressive press, but with a single stage press, it's a little bit of a hassle, but it does turn out really, really well, and I think that this probably gives me a little bit better taper crimp on those bullets. So that's kind of the process that I'm using to load these rounds. And now let me get back to the little experiment that I'm running. I want to compare the performance of the Speer Gold Dot short barrel versus the standard. I can hypothesize how those two results might turn out. And I think there's one of two different ways that this is going to go. One way is that when driven at these higher velocities from a full length or full size pistol like the HK45T, that short barrel version might expand a lot more, or fairly more than the standard, which then could cause it to not penetrate as much. However, if I have sufficient velocity on this thing, I could get very good expansion, very similar to the standard gold dot, and also nice penetration, maybe even a little bit more penetration. I think really the way it's going to go is it's going to expand more and penetrate less. Well, that's my hypothesis. I'm wondering how it's really going to turn out. So we're going to go ahead, head out to the range, and give it a test. I'm interested in which one of my pistols is going to perform best with this bullet. I've got my HK-45 Tactical and two 1911s from Springfield Armory. The first is their loaded model, and the second is their Range Officer Champion. We're going to be firing 5-shot groups at 15 yards off the bench and capturing the velocity of those rounds with the lab radar. Then I'm going to switch over and shoot one round into the Clear Ballistics ballistic gelatin to see how this Speer Gold Dot operates or how it performs. Gee, that's a big jump. Wow, now those two are similar. .864. Back on safe. Target on the right. .822. Now I've been shooting 1911s a lot longer than I've been shooting the HK. Well, that's interesting. They're pulling up to the right. That's good. .773. Now this, of course, is a little bit shorter barrel. I'm curious what that effect is really going to be on this muzzle velocity. That's 5. That one pulled. That felt good. There's the entrance for the Speer Gold Dot. This is a standard Speer Gold Dot, fired from 7 yards. And it looks like it got about 11, maybe 11 and a half inches of penetration. You can see it in there. This clear ballistics gelatin is not so clear anymore. It's had its use. This is the Speer Gold Dot short barrel. I like where I place that, smack dab, almost smack dab in the middle. Nice permanent wound channel. Fun, fun, fun. That was fun. You know, it's very interesting to me that the same bullet, loaded extremely consistently. I mean, the unique powder charge was weighed to the 1/10 of a grain, etc., etc. Same brass was used, all that. So it's very consistent rounds, but yet one pistol or one firearm did far better with the exact same load than did another versus another. And as you probably determined on your own, that H&K 45 Tactical did a very nice job. It really kind of consumed those gold dots very, very well and performed very well for us. But before I start talking about all of those results, the other thing I'll point out is related to the muzzle velocities. You know, we really had 3 pistols each with different barrel lengths. The H&K had a 5 1/4 or 5.2 inch barrel. The 1911 government style, the loaded Springfield Armory, that has a 5-inch barrel, while the Springfield Armory Range Officer Champion had a 4-inch barrel. And that's kind of following along with the officer line, which actually normally has about a 3.5-inch barrel. But nonetheless, we saw about a 50 to nearly 100 foot per second difference between the 5.2-inch barrel and the 4-inch barrel on that officer. If we dropped her down to a true 3.5-inch barrel, we probably would have saw another, maybe 50 feet per second reduction in muzzle velocities. And of course, that's the whole idea behind the Gold Dot short barrel bullet. So let's take a close look at all of these results. Now, the PAC test is an acronym for precision, accuracy, and consistency. I'm measuring precision as the extreme spread, and whenever I'm measuring these in pistols, I'm using inches to make that measurement. When I'm doing rifles, I'll normally convert that into MOA. But the clear winner here was the HK 45 Tactical, giving us less than 1 inch extreme spread. 5-shot group, 15 yards. The HK 45 Tactical also gave us the best score, 44 points out of 50. However, it wasn't the most consistent. And what I'm using there is I'm looking at the standard deviation of the muzzle velocities as recorded with that lab radar. And the win here goes to the 1911 Springfield loaded model. Now, the pistol that shot the best with the standard Speer Gold Dot bullet was the one selected to fire the short-barreled bullet version. And so I ended up shooting the PAC test and, in fact, the whole PAC-T test with the H&K 45T. The size of the group opened up quite a bit, actually about double the size I was getting with the standard bullet. Accuracy reduced to pretty much the same as what I was getting with the 1911. But the standard deviation, the muzzle velocities actually That was pretty darn good. Next, let's talk about the T component of our PAC-T test. That is the terminal performance in that clear ballistic gelatin. Remember, this is a 20% NATO block, and we got 11.5 inches of penetration from the Gold Dot standard version, and only 9.5 inches of penetration with that short-barreled version. And that's kind of what I was expecting was about to happen, that the penetration wouldn't be quite as much as in the standard bullet version. But I also thought that it would expand more, and it didn't. It pretty much expanded the same, actually just a little bit less. Both bullets retained 100% of their weight, and when I run all of these measurements and statistics through our scoring spreadsheet, the standard bullet gave us 422.5 or 423 points out of a possible 500 points. The short-barreled bullet, just a little bit less, 412.5. Almost certainly those points were because of the difference in penetration. Maybe a few points lost there because of the expansion was just a little bit less. Now, what's really interesting to me is that if you've been following our PAC-T tests, I tested the 230 grain Speer Gold Dot a number of months ago, but this was the factory ammunition. And that factory ammo was quite a bit faster, averaging 920 feet per second. But what's really interesting to me, and the point I wanted to bring up, is that the score was identical, 422.5 or 423 points. And the penetration was identical also, 11.5 inches. So what that tells me is that this Speer Gold Dot is one heck of a consistent bullet. It had, fairly different muzzle velocities, and yet it performed the same way inside that ballistic gelatin. I guess that's why this is one of those legendary bullets. I think you can really rely on a bullet like this, and all this just helps to prove that. We've got more PAC-T tests coming up. We've got the 90 grain 9mm. That's another reload. You won't want to miss that one. I got quite a few stories behind how that all turned out. And I've got a handful of factory ammo that I'll be testing later on as well. So until next time, thanks for watching.